Board member.
Debbie Davis, Board Secretary.
Vern Sullivan, board member.
Steve Holloway, board member.
Dave Palmer, Vice President. Tim Crutchley, Acting Superintendent.
And I'm John Laughlin, Board President. Just kind of like to read a little statement here. The Fox C6 School District Board of Education is pleased to announce that Dr. James Whipke has been hired as superintendent for the 2015-2016 school year. Dr. Whipke currently serves as Executive Director of Secondary Education for Rockwood School District, a position he has held since 2011. We're excited to fill this superintendent's post with a person of Dr. Whipke's caliber. Our board was favorably impressed with all the candidates we considered and highly impressed with the candidates we interviewed. Dr. Whipke accomplished an educational achievement, make him the perfect candidate for the job. Also in closed session, we took a vote to accept his contract, and that was a 6-0 vote in closed session. Dr. Whipke received his BS degree from Harris Stowe State College. He has a master's degree in education and a master's degree in administration. His doctorate's degree is from Maribel University in educational leadership. During his 22 years in education, Dr. Whipke has served as elementary and middle school teacher in the Rockwood School District, middle school assistant principal in the Parkway School District, a middle school and high school principal and executive director of secondary education in the Rockwood School District. Dr. Whipke has the education, experience, strength of character, and vision to lead the Fox School District into the future. We look forward to a smooth transition, and I know I, for one, am very anxious to have Dr. Whipke to meet the students, the teachers, the parents, the staff, and the entire Fox community. And with that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Whipke, our new superintendent.
Well, thank you, President Laughlin, members of the board. It's my honor to be here tonight. I feel like I got to meet many of you already, so thank you for taking time out of your evening. I know you got families at home, and here you are coming to meet some strange guy getting ready to lead your district, so I appreciate that. I'm pretty good with words at times, and normally I would come up and when we have conversations in the future, you'll see that I don't have a script and I don't follow a script except really what's in my heart about educating kids. Tonight, though, I'm actually going to pull out a few notes, which again, I seldom do. Words do come easy to me. In fact, some might say, and if you talk to anybody I currently work with, that I can be a little bit long-winded. But those folks, I usually can talk out of that, and they recognize real quick that I'm not. Tonight I am going to read from some notes, as there's just so much that I want to say, as this does begin a new time in our history and in our district. It's time. It is a time for my one and only first impression with everyone in the room, as well as with the entire Fox School District. One that I so look forward to working with for many years to come. I'm confident that the message I leave you with tonight will serve as a brief overview of how honored and privileged I feel to be your next superintendent of the Fox School District, as well as provide you with my outlook on taking next steps. 5 days a week, early in the morning, students get up and they roll out of bed to get ready for school. Some may have set their iPhone alarms to wake up. If you're like my family, mom and dad are running down the hallways once, twice, 3 times before we are able to have some success and get our kids up. You all get the picture, but each family begins their day with hope. Hope that their child, their most prized possessions, will be taken care of, cared for, and provided for. That hope is there because Fox has a tradition of excellent teachers and an excellent staff. However, it is extremely important to me that you all are not just hopeful, but confident that when you get up in the morning, your child is going to be receiving the very best education possible in the state of Missouri, and that your leader of this wonderful school district leads through listening, learning, but most importantly, with a heart and with integrity. That I lead with a sense of fairness where all decisions are vetted through one question: does this decision support our students and their learning? As I thought about what I wanted to say tonight, one book kept speaking to me. There's a book that I'm currently reading and conducting a book study on, and it's called Leaders Eat Last. Think about the title a minute. Leaders Eat Last. It is written by a gentleman named Simon Sinek. The concept behind the title is pretty simple. Simon went on a support trip to Afghanistan to talk to the troops and rally the soldiers. He was surprised to notice at mealtime that all the high-ranking officers stood in the back of the dining hall and watched the soldiers file in for grub. Simon quickly asked one of the officers, "Why are you waiting to eat? I would figure the Marines and the soldiers would serve you lunch." Simon was shocked by the Lieutenant General's comments. He made mention of these boys putting their life on the line for all of us, and that if anyone deserved to eat first, it was the ones in the trenches. That story, more than any other, resonates with me. It has helped me be motivated and helped shape me as a leader. The very first line in the foreword of Simon's book is written by George J. Flynn, a lieutenant general in the U.S. Marine Corps, and it states, "I know of no case study in history that describes an organization that has been managed out of a crisis. Every single one of them was led." I can promise you as superintendent that we will work together in a unified front, keeping our vision on the future of continuing to move forward, conducting ourselves as professionals with integrity and wisdom, and being humble servants of the district. Most importantly, we will always work hard to make smart, sound decisions that are in the best interest of our students. If you would continue to read a few paragraphs down in Leaders Eat Last, it makes reference to the importance of leaders being focused on people, and that incredibly strong organizations start with strong cultures and shared values, and recognize the importance of relationships in accomplishing a mission. Mission. As you know, there's not a company, a business, or a school district that doesn't have a mission statement. In fact, our district, in our district, our mission statement, as everyone knows, to motivate and inspire success, to build a foundation for lifelong learning through achievement, character, and excellence. In the military, their missions are viewed just a little bit differently than most companies, businesses, or even, yes, school districts. But perhaps it's a mindset and a culture we need to strive towards a bit more in public school education. You see, in the military, failing a mission is considered catastrophic. Because when soldiers are carrying out their mission, they understand it's about life and death. And their actions have someone's existence in the palm of their hands. Quite frankly, failure just isn't an option. To motivate and inspire success, to build a foundation for lifelong learning through achievement, character, and excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, it should not be an option. And under my leadership, it will not be. It is my responsibility as the leader of this great school district to value people, create a culture of trust and teamwork, and maintain our focus on our students, their needs, and their accomplishments. It is my personal mission to do things the right way and to take responsibility for the values mentioned above, because failure, again, just isn't an option in my eyes. Failure is catastrophic because we have children's futures in the palms of our hands. I'm the father of 4 wonderful kids, Jameson, Jordan, Jill, and Jacob. Kind of get the theme, the J's. My wife's Jennifer. I'm Jim. Father-in-law's John. You got John Jr., Jan, Julie, Jeff. Okay, all right. So you get the idea. So I have 4 kids, but tonight I also consider the 12,000 students in Fox as my kids. And that is my mindset in being your superintendent. When I mention we have children's futures in the palms of our hands, they are our children. They are my children. And we will take care of them. My first action as your superintendent my first actions are incredibly important. And each and every one of my actions I carry out throughout my tenure in Fox will be done through looking through the lenses, how can I serve students of our district better? As your superintendent, it is my responsibility to build and establish that culture, and the only way I know how to do that is through the lens of Leaders Eat Last. I will have 2 requests of everyone in the room tonight. The first request, hold me accountable. Me. I will expect and want to be held accountable for the words and my comments tonight. In looking to next steps over the course of this current school year, I plan on respectfully integrating into the Fox School District. It is incredibly important that I live up to my responsibilities in my current position, but it is equally important to me that I receive and take advantages to build relationships with the Fox community. It is my hope that I have opportunities to be in the buildings, even this semester, but second semester, and also be invited to and to take part in some important events within the district. I look forward to meeting with individuals within our district and beginning conversations around improvement. I am hopeful I can get a really good sense of where we are as a district so that at the start of the next school year, I can hit the ground running. As we start the 2015-2016 school year, you can expect that I will structure transition events. Some of the events that I'm planning are the following. I'm going to create a transition team. I have parents, students, right, staff, and I want to create this transition team, all right, so that I can check on myself. Am I meeting your needs this first semester as your superintendent? How can I improve to better serve you? I want to have town hall meetings with parents. I want to hear what the strengths of the district, what the concerns of the district are. I want to learn. I want to be in classrooms. I'm committed to trying to get and do my best to get into every classroom next year. Every single one of the classrooms within the first quarter. Yeah, it'll mean late nights. But I didn't sign up for this to go home early. And I do mean every classroom. I want to be at school events, as I mentioned earlier, and I want to be at community events. Remember, I mentioned earlier, I have 2 things I will ask for from the folks in this room. The first was to hold me accountable, and the second deals with belief. I really believe that in life, emotions do matter. I don't know whoever said that. Hey, take the emotion out of it. How do you do that? I don't know. Right? Emotions do matter. And in my humble opinion, the 3 most powerful emotions, and first and foremost, is love. Think about how much you love your kids. Think about the power behind that emotion. Think about how much you love your spouse, family. So love. But if we were able to put love on the shelf just 1 minute and think about, well, what's next? What are the next 2 most powerful emotions that we as humans experience and have? It would be fear and belief. Far too often we let fear creep in when we have distrust and there are barriers to our relationships. that fear can become contagious, and it can rip through any organization. If we allow fear to control us and our actions, guess what? It will. The thing is, and this is the thing that's really cool, we have a choice. We can choose fear, but we also have an equally powerful emotion, one of belief. The actual definition of belief is a state of mind treated in various disciplines, especially philosophy and psychology, as well as the traditional culture in which a subject regards a thing to be true. Belief, a thing to be true. Ladies and gentlemen, that thing can be true is us in this room, committing ourselves to our students, the patrons of this great district, and striving to make Fox the best possible district we can possibly make it. In order for me to be successful in Fox, I have to believe in myself and the fact that I can do this job. I hope you have heard a humble confidence tonight in me that I do believe I can do this job and do it very well. Secondly, we all need to believe in the idea, the belief in an idea that Fox School District can be the best school district in the state of Missouri. And why stop there? The last element of belief is where I need help from you. Second thing, right? Accountability. And this is the second thing where I need help from you. I need you to believe in me. Believe in my heart. Believe in my sense of integrity and my want to simply do the right thing. I realize this will take time. And hopefully you've heard tonight that I do have a plan of action to get to know all of you and to build relationships with our community. I want to leave you with one final thought tonight. It is actually the words of John Quincy Adams. I told you I was a little long-winded. He describes his views on leadership. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. It is my hope that tonight you have believed my words, that we all have learned together, and that we will continue to learn together in our quest to do more and be more as a district on behalf of our students, because you know what? They deserve it. Thank you for the opportunity to lead the Fox School District. I can promise you there will be no one who works harder and cares more than your superintendent. Thank you.
That got me pretty fired up. That was good. Thank you. Okay, so on with the meeting. 2.2, staff recognitions. I don't believe there are any this evening. 2.3, letters. No letters this evening either. Okay. 2.4, public comments. Dr. Rizzi.
We have 5 public comments tonight. Just a reminder that you have 3 minutes. The first person is Mr. Scott Reed.
Good evening. 2 weeks ago, the Fox School Board voted 4-2 not to approve a $640 salary increase for 6 building administrators that had completed their advanced education. I applaud the board for their continued vigilance and scrutinization of all school. I believe that the board has widened the gap of mistrust and lack of confidence from the public. I do not know who the 6 principals or vice principals are, but I do feel that they should be compensated for their academic advancement just as the teachers were the month prior. It was stated in the discussion that the increase is built into the budget and is in line with other districts' practices. Valid arguments were made for and against the increase. For the principals who were on the front line staying positive and attending to the mounting concerns of parents, teachers, and support staff, I think it is unwise to essentially say their advanced learning has no value. I believe that the trust and confidence that the district has in our school board is on uneasy ground. We, the staff and taxpayers, have been told on many occasions in the last 6 months that this district has to make drastic changes and that the board must make difficult and unpopular decisions to clean up the horrible circumstances we face. I think most folks are well aware of those facts and accept the change must happen. Based on the multitude of comments heard from the public, the staff, various news and media outlets, and this public forum, I believe the community is finding it increasingly unacceptable and unpalatable to hear of the hard decisions and unnecessary changes, or necessary changes, when it seems as though the students, the staff, and the public are the ones affected by the outcome, yet the transgressors seem to be unscathed. I understand this is an extremely busy period of time due to the recent superintendent search, the state audit, and internal investigations into the actions of our former superintendent and her staff. I'm sure no person is enviable of the position this board finds itself. Nonetheless, you were elected to represent the interest of the district taxpayers and make decisions that are best for the education of our children. So please explain to us all how we can teach our children that it is okay to launch vicious attacks on social media or use intimidation to get what you want, that it is okay to abuse credit cards and district funds for personal gains or to treat friends to a good time, or to misappropriate funds at will while sucking dry our district programs, classroom supplies, and employee salaries to hide and perpetuate your actions. I'm sorry, but this is what you are saying to the staff and teaching our children by not appropriately holding those administrators accountable. I agree that the board must take tough and unpopular decisions, so this January, when you begin to rework on all of the district's salary schedules, on contracts, when you reposition people, when you begin to rewrite and adopt clear and enforceable district policies, and any other overdue actions needed in the district, please correct the inappropriate lack of action against the transgressors within our central office before asking for your students, your staff, and your public to accept the more hard decisions and cutbacks. Most of you are businessmen and women. Would you allow this sort of thing to happen in your business? Thank you.
Next, Mr. Richard Simpson.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. First, I would like to thank the board for doing an excellent job as far as finding Dr. Whipke. I received an email today from a mutual friend who highly recommended Dr. Whipke. And so from this friend, I know that he will do a great job. So welcome to our school district, and glad to have you here. The other thing I'd like to mention this evening is my concerns for the recent changes that happened this year regarding the voluntary retirement program. I understand that from reviewing all of the board packets and the board minutes that there was nothing in the board minutes that discussed or covered anything to do with the removal of the 10-year requirement for our early retirement program. And so I know that there was noted in a letter that I received from Mr. Brazil yesterday that that was done back in February of this year. And so since that was done, and there was no information provided to the board ahead of time in the board packet or provided in any of the minutes, the public wasn't aware of what actually had gone on. Therefore, I'm asking, and I believe that you guys, as the board, could change that policy to actually go back to reinstating the 10-year requirement, because that's what's fair to the members of the community as far as the taxpayers go, and for former employees who retired out of the system. And I think it's only fair that you try and protect our taxpayer dollars and do that on a fair basis as far as reinstating that tenure requirement. So, thank you.
Mr. James Osha?
Thank you. First, on the public policy comment policy, I recently emailed all of you, and I don't know if you've gotten it. I only got one response from a board member, and Ms. Davis did respond with some information on that. I asked, how can the board publicly discuss a person's position, pay, qualifications, as well as the interview process, and ultimately fire this person? But I present a question towards a panel member about their comments made on TV to get clarification on those comments so that the public could understand them better. I get stopped and brought into a closed session. I didn't discuss personnel matters. To me, this is a double standard. On the nepotism policy and ethics policy that you're going to be voting on, is the board willing to request either through the state audit or another source to review all contracts and make sure they meet all job qualifications, honest hiring practices, and other policies, so that those truly qualified are in a position to take the district forward? And I won't go into the voluntary thing, Rich kind of covered that, but I also want to turn to our new superintendent-to-be. I'd like to welcome you. You have an unenviable, daunting task ahead of you. As we, the staff, the students, and parents, and taxpayers, we are excited and thrilled for you. Yes, we will back and support you. Just remember this. Don't take things personal or think we are attacking your credentials. We have been through a lot over the last several years and are very wary of leadership at this time. So questions, responses, and a wait-and-see approach should be expected. But again, welcome to the Fox family.
Mr. Mark Jones?
Good evening. I basically want to echo what Mr. Simpson talked to you about. I want to encourage the board to revisit and to revise the voluntary retirement program, removing any ambiguity and reinstating a more reasonable minimum length of service requirement. This policy should not be turned into a loophole by which some individuals are allowed to take advantage of the people of this district and rob our children and our teachers of much-needed funds. Additionally, I urge the board to postpone a vote on any current requests for the retirement incentive until this policy has been revisited, clarified, and approved. If you're willing to approve an unshameful request to take tens of thousands of dollars from our children in exchange for 16 long months of service, where does it stop? Do the right thing, postpone this vote, and then echo the voice of the people of this district and give a resounding no to any such request. Eligibility does not guarantee approval, and you, the governing board, this governing board of this district, have the power and responsibility to determine the policies to approve or disapprove, and to ensure that the funds entrusted into your hands are used to educate our children. Thank you.
Mr. Matt Hay?
Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Whipke. I just wanted to say it's incredibly heartening to read to hear that you've read Leaders Eat Last. It's a great book, and I think it's foundational in understanding what leadership is, as well as what it isn't, as well as how to earn the respect of your subordinates rather than assume that you're going to automatically have that respect. I wish you the best of luck in this new role. I'd like to just ask that in moving the district forward, we make sure we don't ignore our past and ensure that any wrongdoing and those responsible for it are held responsible and punished, so they're held accountable. It's essential to gaining both the trust of the taxpayers as well as to setting an example for our children as far as teaching them, we're a district of character, what accountability really means. I think too much I fear that we talk about moving the district forward, which is absolutely essential, but we keep in mind that we have to look in the rearview mirror, and we have to ensure that the past has been dealt with and that it remains in the past before we can successfully move forward, or it's just going to end up being this festering wound that continues and basically hinders, our growth as well as the education for our children. On that matter, I'd also like to reiterate the request for the voluntary retirement program. I'd like to ask, while you're amending the policy this evening, if that's still your will, that you reinstate those years of service requirements and make it effective. If we can change other things, I'm sure we can make a motion to go ahead and amend that policy this evening. Thank you.
That's all our public comments. Thank you, everybody, for participating.
I will make a little bit of a statement on that policy, and I won't go through all the details and all of that kind of stuff, but there is no vote this evening on whether or not to accept the, there's no vote on whether or not that applies or doesn't apply this evening. Our attorney's taking a look at exactly those stipulations. There is a long conversation to exactly why it went the direction that it went and the unintended consequences. We're all appalled by it as well up here. It was never intended to be a loophole. It was never intended to pay anybody out, so to speak, and we're taking a very serious look at exactly what our options are, and we'll be dealing with them quite quickly. It won't be tonight, but it will be quite quickly. Um, 3.1, dropout rate, Dr. Rizzi.
I'm happy to announce that the current dropout rate is a .66.
Uh, 3.2, average daily attendance, also Dr. Rizzi.
I'm also happy to announce that our current average daily attendance is 96.12 compared to last year's 96.42, so we're staying at a very high level, and we're appreciative to our staff and our students for doing such a good job.
Nice, thank you. 3.3, program evaluations, instruction, special education, gifted education, vocational, and federal programs, Title I, Title II, Title III. Mr. Crutchley or Mr. Dr. Rizzi? Dr. Rizzi.
Yeah, each year the district completes an evaluation of the instructional programs. Tonight, the evaluation includes a review of the district goals, analysis of data, and action plans for the coming school year. The program evaluations are of instruction, special education, gifted education, technical education, which is formerly vocational ed, and all the federal programs. We ask that you review and receive as presented, and we will ask for your approval next month.
Any questions? 3.4, financial report. It's in the late materials. Mr. Brazil.
There is a financial report in the late materials dated October 31, 2014, representing the first 4 months of the fiscal year. We are right on target to where we want to be. I would mention that the month of November is when we reach our lowest point of the year in resources. We will pass through that low point just fine and start to rebuild our resources during the month of December. Be happy to take any questions anytime, but there's nothing notable about this report.
Uh, 3.5, food allergy protocol revision. It's also in the late materials. Dr. Rizzi.
Yes, the district has revised the food allergy awareness protocol in the following areas. We included a new section of definitions, revised the school nurse responsibilities, a new section, classroom teacher responsibilities, revised food service manager responsibilities, added a new section for dining areas. This document we replaced the older version on the district website, distributed to the appropriate staff members, and placed in the district's revised 504 manual. This is a document, it's a work in progress, so we will adjust and change as time goes on to fit the needs of the students.
.6 curriculum, advanced placement for statistics.
The AP statistics curriculum is aligned to the AP standards, also aligned to the Missouri Standards Guides. It's student-friendly language. It has depth of knowledge levels, tiered vocabulary, and resources. Three staff members were involved in creating this document. We ask that we review for information.
You can just leave your mic on.
Yeah, it's on.
All right, 3.7 curriculum, advanced placement, United States government and politics.
We ask that you review the curriculum for the government, AP Government. It's aligned with the government standards and curriculum and standards, pacing guides, student-friendly language, and depth of knowledge levels, tiered vocabulary, and resources. There were also 3 staff members involved in creating this document.
4.1, Form 0342, School Board Organization Candidates Declaration. Mr. Crutchley.
Yep. In your late materials, you have 3 different policies. We'll deal with these one at a time. They're for approval, and we'll vote on each one separately. So the first one is Form 0342, School Board Organization Candidate Declaration. Basically, state law, there's some changes to state law, and there are some new requirements for members of the public who wish to file to run for a board seat. And so this action by the legislature has caused us to have to change our policy. So Form 0342 is one of those changes that we are asking for your approval. And these are the MSBA policies that we're asking you to adopt. So this is, like I said, Form 0342 that we're discussing right now.
So we're going to break these 3 apart individually. We could have voted on them together, but I'm going to break them apart. Can I'd like to entertain a motion and a second to accept the first one. Do I have a second? Mr. Sullivan? Questions or comments?
And you can see the highlighted information is all new. Everything that was in the old policy that had to be removed is crossed out.
All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next policy that we have is 0342.1, which is our nepotism policy. We've discussed this at a couple different meetings, and we are asking for your approval of the nepotism policy. And the nepotism policy is in the regular packet. It's not in the late materials with these other 2.
Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Questions or comments? Everybody's good? Yeah, I'll make a comment on it. It's well-written, it's clean, it's very specific, and it's pretty doggone tight, and it's the one that a couple of us wanted in the first place, got watered down, and today we have the ability to put it in place the way it should have been the first time, so I'm pretty excited about it myself. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries.
Our last policy is 0325. This, again, is precipitated by changes in state law and some other language that MSBA is suggesting. And so, again, the highlighted areas are new. Everything that's crossed out is what we're eliminating from current policy. And we ask that you approve this also.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Questions or comments? My only question, it's just purely an update to the law that specifically needs a refresh regulation. That's exactly what it is.
Exactly. The one biggest area that's in there is something that we have not had in, which is the ability to file by certified mail if you are serving in the armed forces.
Okay.
And we did not have that in our policy, so we needed to include that.
So okay. So the MSBA is, okay, perfect. Any other questions?
Upload it to the website? As soon as I can get it all
right. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. 4.2, approved date for board elections and set date for filing for board elections. Mr. Crutchley.
We're asking you to approve April 7th, 2015 as official day for elections for board seats. Also, candidate filing for the April 7th election will begin December 16th at 8 a.m. and will close on January 20th at 5 p.m. The location for filing is central office, as it always is.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 4.3, gifts to the district. Mr. Crutchley.
We had one gift to the district at Merrimack Heights, and we ask that you approve that.
I need a motion? I'll make a motion. Second? All in favor?
Yes.
Sorry. My apologies. Questions or comments?
I think we should let everybody know what this is, that somebody did and who did it. They haven't asked for
Anonymity. Kathy O'Connor, who's a special education teacher at Merrimack Heights, has donated it's called exactly a scanner temporal thermometer. It's an instant digital ear thermometer is what it is to be used at that school.
I'd like to thank her for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm finished.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.4, revised professional learning plan, 2014-2015 professional learning evaluation. Mr. Crutchley.
For your approval is the professional learning plan. If you recall, we brought it last month for approval, and a couple board members asked for some changes to be made. One of those changes was on page 5. I believe Mr. Holloway asked for it to be detailed exactly the approval process. So at the bottom of page 5, where it says visitation request form, it details the exact procedure of getting any professional learning approved that any staff member would request. And that's the only change to the professional learning plan that was brought to you last month. So if you have questions about that, I do have one other item to discuss. Is there any questions about the plan itself? The only other item at the very end of the document is regulation, and it's district regulation for professional learning. You'll notice that we made quite a few changes to that. The changes involved defining what out-of-state travel is. It has a statement in there that we are basically discouraging and severely limiting out-of-state travel, but it defines what that term means and how we determine what out-of-state is, because if we just say out-of-state travel is eliminated, we understand that there could be something happening in Columbia, Illinois, which is a 20-minute drive, and that would be eliminated. So we've tried to clearly define that. We have tried to clearly define our limits for travel and how we get reimbursed and how those things work. So that is regulation that's in policy that we have changed. We've done administrative changes to that I wanted to make sure that the board was aware of.
Mr. Krupa.
Could we ask Mr. Brazil to highlight some of those changes so that everybody knows what we've done with the mileage and the airfare and the hotels, and just hit the high points? You don't have to read the whole thing, but
I could do that. I have it right in front of me. I'll just run through real quick. Basically, the regulation, it talks about how you're reimbursed if you're a staff member, and we defined more clearly how to be reimbursed, that for the most part, staff members are required to pay for those activities and be reimbursed. We did add a language that provides for administrative, where if we are requiring employees to attend certain things, the district will pay for those things up front that we are requiring. We set the mileage reimbursement rate at 35 cents. It was at the IRS reimbursed rate, which was 50-something cents, so we reduced that. Like I said, we defined out-of-state travel, limited that, discouraged it, but made sure we defined it in terms of out-of-state travel is anything that's over 350 miles each way. We defined airfare that should be based on a coach rate and should not exceed the mileage reimbursement rate for that destination unless approved by the superintendent. We changed the meal allowance that it's $40 per day for overnight travel because before it was open for any kind of workshops that were attended. And the last thing was lodging. We set the lodging rate not to exceed $150 per night, again, unless otherwise approved by the superintendent. Those are the highlights of the changes, Mr. Krupa.
Thank you, Mr. President.
No problem.
I just wanted you to tell that.
So we're asking for approval of the PL plan. The regulation is just for your information, so you know that what we changed that flows into that PL plan.
I need a motion and a second for this policy. Mr. Sullivan on the second. Now, are there any questions or comments? All right. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.5, teacher membership count. Is that Mr. Brazil?
That's,
Mr. Crutcher?
yeah, I'll do it.
Sorry.
Annually, the board approves the count of actively certified teachers who are members of local teachers organization at the board meeting in November. The purpose of this approval is for establishing and maintaining channels for discussion of matters of common concern with representatives from the organization, which represents the largest number of teachers in membership. The MSTA-CTA has 296 certified members, and the MNEA-C6EA has 411 certified teachers. So we're asking you to approve. MNEA-C6EA is the majority organization with 411 members.
Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4.6, school resource officer agreement. Mr. Brazil.
There's two parts to this document tonight. One relates to the current year and one relates to the prior year. We've been operating with a SRO, which is a police officer assigned by the City of Arnold to the Fox campus for some time. We have not always had an agreement in place. We're reestablishing that agreement process, and this agreement applies to the current year, outlines the duties and responsibilities of the city and us, and the cost of the agreement is $30,000. In addition, we received an invoice from them for last year. Last year, we did not have an agreement. They did, however, provide all the services that we expected of them, and I'm asking that you approve both tonight's agreement and last year's invoice.
Do I have a motion? Mr. Sullivan, second. Mr. Krupa, questions or comments? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Uh, 5.1, consent grouping for action business. Mr. Brazil.
We have the bills in front of you for your approval. I would acknowledge that there are some bills that have been separated out. One of those relates to Mr. Sullivan and a family member of his. I would point out that Mr. Sullivan has no direct financial interest in this transaction, but he prefers that it be presented so that he can abstain. The same is true for Mr. Krupa. There is a check written to a business owned by a family member of his. He has no direct financial interest, but again, wishes to abstain. So you're faced with three votes, one for the bulk of the items and separate votes for the two individual transactions.
Saved me a lot of time. Thanks, John.
I would make the first motion in regard to the bulk of the bills excluding those that have been set out related to Mr. Krupa and Mr. Sullivan.
So, I'm a little confused by the way that was written. Okay, so, but I want to make sure I got it right. So I need a motion and a second for the complete grouping of bills minus those two check numbers only.
Yes, sir.
And I don't have those two check numbers in front of me, but we'll dictate those personally. Okay, so can I get a motion and a second for that, please?
I'll make a motion for the bulk bills.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. The second grouping is going to include both of them, or are we breaking them apart?
I would break them apart.
Okay, so the first one will be the one that's associated to Brad Duncan. So I need a motion and a second for the first one.
Motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. The last one is the one related to the jewel
The
box?
jewel box.
The jewel box flowers?
Check number 10231.
Thank you, sir. I need a motion.
Motion.
Make a motion.
Motion. Steve, second. Is that a- Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Abstain.
Opposed?
Oh, abstain.
Abstain. Motion carries. All right, 6.0, consent grouping for action, human resources. 6.1, staff separations. It's in the late materials.
Ask that you approve staff separations in the late materials.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 6.2, employment and contract revisions.
Ask that you approve the employment and contract revisions, A, employment of certified staff, B, employment of classified staff that are revised in the late materials, C, employment of substitute staff, and D, employment modifications. And I just want to take a quick second. With D, employment modifications, you have two individuals with employment modifications from our IT staff. We have, over the past few months or year, have been having our IT guys hired away from us. We have two individuals that we consider very important to that department that we, for the duties that they perform, are significantly underpaid. We would like to attempt to retain them, and in order to do that, we need to pay them a going rate, I guess we could say, which are...
Market competitive rate.
Yeah, more competitive rate, which our director of IT and myself looked at a number of school districts surrounding us and tried to come up with a little more competitive rate. So that's what Part D is about.
Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Mr. Krupa, second? Sure. Mr. Sullivan, questions or comments? Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Brazil, these two salaries will fall within the salary schedule, correct?
They will fall within the new salary schedule.
That's what I meant.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll make a comment on it. I come out of the IT industry. I've looked at this very in-depth, and I have a general idea of what the market rates are for individuals of this particular skill set. And I also have a pretty good understanding of what the two of them are doing, and I can tell you that two of them aren't nearly enough in our school district to handle the amount of workload that they're doing. And I can also tell you that while finding additional IT skills is quite doable, getting them trained to the specific intricacies of our district is incredibly challenging and takes a significant amount of time. I am 100% on board that protecting these assets of our school district is the right thing to do, because replacing training and getting up to the next level is incredibly challenging in this particular industry. And furthermore, I think we need some additional assistance. We're awful thin on the backside of it. So that's my comment. Anything else?
Yeah, I'll make a comment about the fact that I feel several of us have been talking about this, and we're correct. And I think something that we probably cut before we realized the ramifications of some of our buildings. And so in this particular set, we're actually hiring several custodians back to actually put them back in the buildings to make sure that the schools are cleaned and they're set up the way they should be for our students.
We've added 9 custodial positions back into the buildings that were cut last spring, and so that has been pretty important for us. So we're pretty excited that we're going to have that extra help, and I'd like to thank the board for supporting us on that, because it's been very, very tough trying to keep the buildings clean with that limited staff that we had. So that's pretty important for us. Thank you.
Any further comments? Roll call, yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 7.1, Superintendent's Report.
The only thing I have is I want to welcome Dr. Whipke. Hopefully, we can get you in here and get you transitioned, and I'm just keeping the seat warm for you.
Board reports? 7.2.
No report.
Dr. Izzo?
I just want to welcome Dr. Whipke and thank the board and the community for making a great choice. And I just can't thank him enough for having the idea of servant leadership. I think that's key for us. Thank you.
I wanted to go first, so I could say that first, Jim. But hiring you, this is the best school board meeting that I've attended since I've been on the school board, because this offers a new direction and your leadership. I wish I could speak as well as you to tell you how happy I am about you being here. And that's all I've got to say.
Welcome. And I also just wanted to thank the community for all of their work on the superintendent interviews. It was a long day for us. I think it was an even longer day for those folks that served on that committee. And it was I was just amazed by the quality of the candidates. And it was a great experience, and we appreciate the community's help and support.
Welcome. And I'm glad your speech said the kids are going to be first. I love that. Enjoy your stay.
Mr. Underwood couldn't be with us tonight, but I think one of the things that we did from a superintendent search was hire him as our consultant. He was invaluable, his expertise, his organization. I also want to thank the folks that were part of that committee that he ran on that Saturday. It was important for us to have involvement from the community, and the information that we got through that was invaluable as well. I'd like to welcome you, Dr. Whipke. I think it's when some of the folks have been asking me about did we make the right choice, have we done the job, the things that I say to them is that two things. One is that this is a game changer, and the other thing is that I believe we're on the ground floor of something that we're going to look back on, whether it's 2 years from now, whether it's 5 years from now, and we'll say that what we did here changed the way the district is going to be going towards the future.
Dr. Whippy, welcome, and I think all roads point up. You got great staff, you got great teachers, and you have our support as a board and the community, apparently, because in that committee, it loved you. So congratulations. We'll work together, and we'll do what's right for the kids. Thank you.
Yeah, I echo that in a lot of ways, and I think you're in a fantastic position, quite frankly. I realize the community and a lot of the environments that we're dealing with kind of a mess, so to speak, from however long a time period you want to put into it, and that we're under a microscope, and that this board needs to, has a significant amount of work to accomplish to move us in the right direction. That said, man, do I appreciate how hard this board does work, how many policies have been refreshed, how many documents have been looked at, the amount of work that Mr. Brazil accomplishes in a 2-week time period to have prepared for us, so that when we get to the offices and spend a couple of hours in preparation of this meeting, it's an amazing machine, and I love this district. Mr. Crutchley, what you've done in this situation is quite amazing. I know you don't get a hell of a lot of credit for it, but to take a 5% pay cut, step up and take the role of this district and put it on your back is just flat amazing, and it's damn appreciated by me. I assure you of that. Beyond that, I absolutely love this district, and I can't wait for Mr. Whipke to get talking to some people, get some leadership moving in the right direction, and assist us in the challenges we have in front of us. I think it's good times ahead. Thank you very much. I need a motion and a second for adjournment. I'm sorry, Mr. Krupa? Oh, you're not doing it.
Second. Mr. Group is having too much fun.
All right. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries.